I'd rather have a fish supper. My name is George. Well, I got the job started and I was building relationships with the team. Now, you build all sorts of relationships. Some become friends, others are colleagues, and God is working on you because you have to love people. Remember, it's a command. Loving people is absolutely vital in a church or a missions organisation, but it's a command, not necessarily an emotional thing. Oh, I'm so much in love with you. It's a command. And God will bring along fellow believers who are difficult people. And I can think of one particular person whom I found very difficult and I still had to work with. He was so uncommunicative, and there were 2 or 3 others maybe over the years. And you know what? If you've never met such a person, it's because it's you. You can be God's test subject on other people. And God accepts all sorts of people, including the difficult people. And I'm sure that many of the disciples were difficult people. So you're in an organisation where you have to love one another, and I had to get on with it. And that was a test of my character, and I knew it was refining me all the time. And I'm still being refined. Just because this face has got wrinkles on it doesn't mean to say it's all settled. Far from it. I'm still being refined by God. Now, the question that I had to address, which all people in missions organisations need to address, is which church am I going to go to? And they didn't specify. You had to find your own church. Now, when I was at university, there was a block warden, as I say, who was a tremendous influence on me. And on one occasion, he said, the closest Bible-believing church to your home, that's the one. And bearing that in mind, I wanted to apply that. Well, there was a congregational church just opposite the Quinta site where we were living and working. And I decided, because of what I'd heard, where people just said, oh, that just, you know, well, I wanted to know what was about. So I went to a different church in the village on one Sunday, my first Sunday there. And I asked, what about that church up the road? And the answer I got thrilled me, because they just happened to say there'd been a change of minister at the congregational church, and there was a mention of the theology that was ministered there, and I found that I knew when I heard the answer to my question, that congregational church is going to be the one, because it's the closest to where I live, and they've effectively told me with the theological statement they've just made that they are very firm in the faith, and I just know it's going to be the one. So the following Sunday I went there, I was greeted, and I found that Sunday by Sunday I very quickly fitted in. And they loved one another, and they loved me, and I became the secretary. How good I was at it, well, that's open to question. But I took responsibility in that church, and again, that was good for my development. And it just gave me an edge. And as I say, loving people is not an option, it's an imperative. You have to love people. And over the years, I saw the team change, people came and went. And again, when I had been at university, I had got these tapes where I'd heard George Verwer, these cassette tapes. I never imagined that one day George Verwer would be someone I knew. And on one occasion we went to the base that was then at Hale Zone. George Ver was the speaker, and I happened to be in the front row, and George Ver spotted me, and there would be times where he'd come to the Quinta as well, and I got to know him. And on one occasion I stood in for his gopher, who was his assistant, because he didn't have some books, and he didn't have any books for doing a meeting in a Manchester church. And he asked that he was to have our books from the Quinta, and he specifically asked me to come up and bring the books, and I helped him on the stall. And that was an interesting experience. And George Verwer was very, very disciplined. He believed in relationships with people, and that permeated the organisation. And I'm glad to say that it was really good for me. And I continue to do that, I hope. So, the next episode of I'd Rather Have a Fish Supper will follow soon.